Right, welcome back to From A to Arbitration. Today I want to get into the investigative interview. As an advocate, when you see some of these investigative interviews and the answers given, it is an absolute disaster. A very good friend of mine had an arbitration the other day, about a month ago. He had a great case, and he did a great job, and we lost because of the investigative interview and the answers that were given. And I'm looking at this investigative interview, and I blame one person and one person only, the shop steward, because you did not do your job in this investigative interview. When you go in there and you sit there like a bump on a log, like you don't want to be there, you are absolutely killing the union. You're killing the Formal A, you're killing the B team, you're killing the advocate. Do your job in the investigative interview. When you look at page 17.7, this is what it states. Employees also have the right, under Weingarten, to a pre-interview consultation with a steward. Federal courts have extended this right to pre-meeting consultations to cover inspection service interrogations. Make sure that you're taking full advantage of that. Some managers, some supervisors will let you know, hey, Corey, look, I'm fixing to take John Doe back here, and we're going to talk about his attendance. Or I'm taking John Doe back here, and we got to talk about such and such. Say, okay, I'm going to need a couple of minutes with John Doe, and go in there and tell him, hey, look, we're going to talk about your attendance. Do you know when you've been off? Yeah. What's the circumstance? Get into that before you go in there to the investigative interview. If it's something else, get into those things. Some supervisors and managers, they're not going to tell you that. I'm going to say, I need John Doe. What's it about? Well, you'll find out when we get in there. Okay. And go and get the carrier and say, I need to have a pre-disciplinary interview with the carrier. And tell them, hey, look, they're fixing to go back there. Do you have any idea what this is about? No? Well, look here. Be cautious with your answers. Answer truthfully. Be brief, but answer truthfully. Because if you're caught lying, you're done for. So just answer truthfully. As a steward, take notes. Take very detailed notes. Ask management if they'll give you a copy of the questions. Some will, some will not. When they're asking questions and you're attempting to write the questions down and they're going way too fast, say, hey, hold on just a second. I can't write that fast. So can you hang on just a second? Let me write this question down. If they say no and they keep going, make sure you notate that. Make sure you notate, hey, I didn't get my questions written down because the supervisor's going too fast. But make sure you write down verbatim the answer. And if the carrier is answering too fast, tell them to slow down. Also under 17.7. It talks about in the investigative interview, you don't have to just be in there as a silent observer. It states in a Weingarten interview, the employee has the right to a steward's assistant, not just a silent presence. The employer would violate the employee's Weingarten rights if it refused to allow the representative to speak or tried to restrict the steward to the role of a passive observer. So if you're talking to your carrier and saying, hey, hang on, and the supervisor says, hey, you can't speak, don't argue with him. Don't argue about that. Say, okay, I'm going to be quiet. And then notate that he told you to shut up. And have the carrier write a statement that he told you to be quiet and to sit there. The biggest killer of discipline for management is a violation of my Weingarten rights. That's one of the biggest killers. So if they tell you to be quiet, say, absolutely, I'm going to be quiet. And sit there and be quiet. Take very good notes. Write the answer as given. I promise you this. When you put in a request for information and you get management's copy of the investigative interview, they're not going to be the same thing that carrier said. Here in my installation, we have a big problem with management after the investigative interview is over with from writing their own questions and answers in there. They just, oh man, I forgot to ask this. I'll just go ahead and write it down that I asked it, and this is what he answered. They'll do that. And you know what happens if we didn't write down the answers to the questions? We'll never know that. So, as a steward, do your job in that investigative interview. Do your job. Write down every question and write down every answer verbatim. Here's my biggest pet peeve. Do not let the carrier be a jerk. They get so offended that they're in there. They're going to sit back, hunched over. You know, how many times have you heard them, ask the question? No. That's stupid. Stop that. Address that immediately. It should have been addressed before you go in there. Answer the questions as best you can. I had an attendance removal in a different city. And I get the II, and there's 10 questions about what happened, and all 10 answers were sick. Sick. Well, now, when I get into the arbitration, and I ask the carrier, well, what happened on this date? What's the other advocate going to be saying? Well, he better say sick. If he says anything other than that, it's no argument. Because he chose on his day in court to say sick. So do not let the carrier be a jerk. It kills in the later steps. Have them answer. Tell them to answer truthfully and to give an answer. Again, Article 16, it talks about that in the just cause principles, and this is what it states. I'm sure you're well aware of it, but was a thorough investigation completed? And this is one of the things that we're going to raise if management goes in there and half-asses this thing. It says, before administering the discipline, management must make an investigation to determine whether the employee committed the offense. Management must ensure that its investigation is thorough and objective. This is the employee's day in court privilege. Employees have the right to know with reasonable detail what the charges are and to be given a reasonable opportunity to defend themselves before the discipline is initiated. So this is our day in court. We need to take advantage of it. Do not let management lead carriers in the investigation. They should be asking questions. Don't let them ask accusatory questions. Stop that immediately. If it's an accident and they say, why did you have an accident on this date? Stop that. Tell them, hey, hold on. That's accusatory. You've already convicted the person. So let's change that question. Again, if they tell you, hey, look, I'm going to handle this, you need to be quiet, say, you got it. But that's accusatory. Don't let them ask accusatory questions of the carrier. If they tell you to be quiet, again, put in the issue statement, Article 17, violation of the Weingarten rights, and it'll kill that discipline. Be professional, but be protective. Okay? That's your brother and sister in there. They've got the crosshairs on. So be professional. I've got some sites that will go along. I know a lot of stewards, they don't handle sites, but as an informal, when I do contingents, I do put sites in there. When I handle a grievance at the informal, my grievance could go from the informal straight to arbitration because I don't want anybody to speak for me. I want to speak for myself. So when I'm at the informal, when I'm preparing that grievance, when I've got those 14 days to prepare that grievance, that thing's going to be ready for arbitration when it hits the Formal A. He doesn't have to do anything except contend whatever management contends, because they will never come to the informal A meeting with any contentions. I'm the only one that has them. So there's a couple of sites for accusatory IIs. One is the Step 4 or M1668. That's very good. It talks about accusatory IIs. Another is, if you got a C number, 23987. 23987 is a very good one for accusatory II. And C 26281. 26281 is another very good site on accusatory IIs. But again, make sure your carrier answers truthfully and gives an answer. If they're upset and they're pissed off and all that, you kind of get it, but they still have to give good answers. And that's more for you than it is for management, because they've already determined what they're going to do. It doesn't matter what they say. Management's fixing to issue discipline. It's for us. It's for us later. It's for us when they get issued the discipline. So before the II, make sure that you're talking to the carrier. Tell them exactly what's going to happen, exactly how they need to answer. Answer short, but answer. Be truthful. If they get out of hand in there and they start answering all crazy, or they get pissed and they just kind of harumphing, and all, stop that. Stop it in front of management. Say, hey, don't do that. Answer the questions that's asked of you. Be that steward. Take control of that. Like I said, this ain't for management. This is for us. As an advocate, that's money. When I get in there and the carrier has been truthful and they've spoken the truth to management during this here, and they get into that arbitration and they're able to go into detail about what they talked about in that investigative interview. So hopefully that's helped you. I'll get into the OIG here in just a second. Probably get into that the next episode. Won't be a very long one, but we'll talk about the OIG and the postal inspectors and how dishonest they are as an organization, and especially in the investigative interview process. Okay, so again, I hope this has helped. II is critical. It's the most important thing as far as discipline is concerned, because this is the carrier's day in court, and he needs to take advantage of that and make sure that they are. That's your responsibility. So I'll see you on the other side. Thanks again for listening.